Alright all, welcome back into my live stream for this week. This is the 4th episode of the live stream. I appreciate you guys that showed up already. You've been waiting on me to get started with this. This is just a little live stream that I do. It's mainly for Q&A, mainly for my subscribers, but if you guys stumble upon it anyways through the search, you're more than welcome to hang out with us and see what's going on. Talk about a little bit of tech news, what's been going on the past week in the tech industry. I also do a lot of Q&A at the end. I go back through my comments that's been left on my videos and whatnot, or if anybody's got a question in the live comments, I'll be more than welcome to answer them for you. I also drink me a cold beer here while doing the show, so I hope you guys don't mind me enjoying my alcohol beverage on a Saturday. If you're old enough and you'd like to, go ahead and join me in one. Today we're going to be talking about the Ryzen 9 3950X. A lot of the bigger YouTubers that gets these products handed to them is already got reviews out on this. We're just going to kind of go over the basics of it a little bit. And also, we're going to be talking about Red Dead Redemption 2 for PC. Tom's Hardware has actually got it to launch and been able to play it and test some graphics cards. So we're going to go through what they've got and kind of compare it to the minimum specs. To see what the minimum specs do compared to what Tom's Hardware has been able to do with the Red Dead Redemption 2 game. So, I guess we'll go ahead and get into the news for the day. And the first thing we're going to be talking about is the AMD Ryzen 3950X review. It's 16 cores. This is also through Tom's Hardware. That's where I like to get a lot of my news from. So the 3950X specifications and pricing. It's going to start out at $749. Yes, I know, it's an awful expensive processor. But you do get 16 cores and 32 threads, 105 watt TDP. Base is 3.5 gigahertz, it boosts up to 4.7, assumably on all cores. 749 is a little bit higher than most processors, but when you're looking at this kind of processing power, and this processor ain't really designed for just anybody. I mean, it's pretty well designed for the enthusiasts or the people that can really use them kind of cores. This is way overkill for just a gaming PC or a regular production PC or anything like that. With what I've seen on the reviews of it so far, it is standing up to the hype. By what I can tell, it's trading blows with Intel's as far as productivity, which of course Ryzen's been doing that for quite a while. But the other reviewers that actually got these chips in hand speaking pretty highly of it. I don't see nothing here that actually gives you the performance of it. But, like I said, you can go check them other YouTubers out that's actually got these in hand and see what you think. These things is kind of knocking the Threadripper CPUs from the first and the second Ryzen's completely out of the water. To have 16 cores and 32 threads on a mainstream processor, that's saying something. It's kind of showing you where the industry's leading to. Let's see, where's it at? And here it actually gives you it's a regular AM4 processor, so it will boot it. It'll go right into your B450 motherboards, the X470 motherboards, X570 motherboards, even the AM3, or not the AM3s, but the 320 motherboard chipsets, which if you're paying this much for a processor, I'd probably go with a 570 high-end motherboard to be able to get the most out of it. I don't have nothing pulled up for the performance of it. You know, I didn't want to steal anybody else's content really, so you know, you have to go check out what the other guys are saying about it. It's actually got them on hand and can do, and you know, they show you the performance of them and whatnot. There it is. The 3950X drops into a standard AM4 socket, X570, 470, and B450 motherboards. You know, like I said, with the power that this thing needs, I'd recommend a 570 motherboard. And you're spending that much money, you might as well spend a couple $100 and get you a decent motherboard to pair this thing with. I know it says X470 and B450, but that'd be kind of iffy on my part if I was going to be going and buying one. That's a little bit of a review or overlook of the R9 3950X, which it, you know, 16 cores, 32 threads. You know, I think it's going to be a pretty good processor, especially with what I've been seeing on it already. Alright guys, next for today, we have Red Dead Redemption 2 again. This is kind of a follow-up. This kind of caught me because of, you know, last week on the live show, I kind of went over the minimum requirements and what they say that you should be running as far as the machine goes to play this game, which I thought was a little crazy because their specs was pretty low. And Tom's Hardware has actually got this game to actually be able to play it, which is impressive within itself. Get down off that video there. But here's what they found. They ran the Ryzen 3200G with the Vega 11 graphics with 8 gigs of RAM. The lowest possible is a 1080p at 70%. That means it's just downscales it, so it ain't quite an 1080p gaming experience. It's like a 720 or a little bit better than a 720. They're getting 30 frames per second on it, which is console territory. They got the Ryzen 3200G with the GTX 1050, 2 gigabytes, 8 gigs of RAM on a balanced setting. It's 1080p. I guess it comes preset. Once the game realizes you got the 1050, it presets it to this at 1080p. And it's also 30 frames per second. Kind of surprised me the Vega 11 and the 1050 is that close together. I mean, yeah, the Vega 11 downscales it a little bit, but yeah, it's still pretty impressive. For the 1050, the highest performance, the 1050 at 1080p at 50%. So it cuts it back by half. You know, they're getting 60 frames per second. Now the Ryzen 3200G with the 1066 gig, 8 gigs of RAM, highest performance, plus the ultra textures at 1080p is hitting 60 frames per second. If you want to play this game at 1080p with the settings decent and get your magical 60 frames per second, which a lot of people like to play the games at, that's why you got into PC gaming, right? Because you ain't happy with the 30 frames per second that the consoles can provide you. And that's why a lot of people turn to the PC. Now you're looking at least a 1066 gig, and it's the highest performance. I'm not real sure on how their scaling goes in the game. You know, as far as highest, ultra, if there's anything above the highest performance. But that ought to be pretty good for you for 60 frames per second. Then they got it set with the 1060 at the balanced. Oh no, I'm sorry. They put the Ryzen 3200G with a GTX 1080 8 gig with 8 gigs of RAM. At the balanced preset 1080p, it was hitting 60 frames per second. Balanced 1080 preset, lowest LOD distance, disabled long shadows, low water quality, 1080p at 150%, so showing you 1080p plus an extra 50% of it. You're getting 60 to 55 frames per second. And then the highest performance on the GTX 1080 preset, 3840 by 2160, which is, I believe that's 1440p, which is 2K. And you're looking at 46 frames per second. So if you're looking to play this game at, 2K, 1440p, you're gonna need some pretty good horsepower to be playing this thing. Actually, down through here, if you want, everything's listed. The articles I'm talking about today will be listed in the link below if you want to read through all these. And here it kind of gives you a breakdown, a snapshot of the graphic, where they're setting that on each one, a little bit of their thoughts on it themselves. But this one down here is what actually caught my attention and kind of surprised me. Let's see here. Yeah, where's it at? 1050 Ti, 1080p, okay, the 1060, there's the 1060. The GTX 1080. Yeah, down here someplace talks about 4K gameplay on this thing. Let me find it. Where you go to? Right there. You probably do not want to go to a full 4K with a GTX 1080 card. Mainly dropped everything settings to the lowest possible, which resulted in an average of 46 frames per second. You're getting back down into the console territory at 4K. So to play this game at 4K, you'd probably be lucky to be able to do that on a 2080 Ti if you're lucky. If you want decent details and whatnot. Let's see, it's barely the minimum for 1080p, 60 frames on Red Dead Redemption 2. The auto performance settings are decent looking at this level. A GTX 1080 gets you an important increase to visual friendly at 60 frames per second at 1440p, but it is not powerful enough for 4K play. So if you're wanting to play this thing on 4K, you're going to have to get a 2080 Super, 2080 Ti, one of them, $1,200 to $1,500 graphics cards to be able to do this. So like I said, and here's their recommended specs, or the minimum and recommended, which I kind of showed this last week. And I think they're a joke compared to what everybody's been, even especially that article there. You look down through there and what they recommend, and their recommend settings. A GTX 1066 gig, which you can see does give you 60 frames per second, but you don't have real good high quality settings on that, even at that, but it is playable with a 1066 gig card at 1080p. So, I guess you can still play this game and still be on somewhat of a budget machine, or, if you don't have $1,000 put in a PC, you can probably put a system together to play this game for, probably $700, $650, $700, depending if you go new or used. And the 1080p, the GTX 1080, you can play it at 1080p at 60 frames and be pretty good on the high distance and all the high details on. But that just kind of goes to show you guys that these game developers is learning how to, or not learning how to, but they are taking advantage of everything that's available to them that the CPUs and the graphics cards are putting out. So yeah, there's a little bit of a breakdown of the performance depending on what you want to play this game at. It's 60 frames per second on a 1050 Ti. The 1060 is the high performance, and that's with the 6 gigs of RAM on it for 60 fraps. You know, and that's an average. You know, you're going to have drops and whatnot depending on what's going on in the game. All right, well, that pretty well wraps it up for that. So we went over the Ryzen 9 3950X, and we went over Red Dead Redemption 2. Like I said, guys, I don't own either one of these, so I really can't do much testing or anything like that on either one. But that's just what I found in from Tom's Hardware here. Sorry about that, guys. I'm fighting a little bit of a cold. All right, so now we're gonna get into the Q&A part of the live stream today. I got a few questions here. Um, let's see here. We got Reborn Chickio Gaming 1 day ago. Is it true that the Gigabyte B450 has buggy and unstable BIOS? My friends suggest me to get the MSI Mortar or the MSI Bazooka instead. Well, the Gigabyte B450, as far as it's got an unstable BIOS, I've never had any problems with the BIOS being unstable with it. Um, as far as it being buggy, you know, most BIOSes got a little bit of bugginess to them. So, and I've never used the MSI Mortar or the MSI Bazooka B450 motherboards. I used the MSI Bazooka, but I think it was for an Intel build. Which MSI's got a pretty good, they make pretty good motherboards as well, just like Gigabyte does. So I think you'd be alright with any of them. You know, it's kind of personal preference. You know, I do your research and see if anybody else, you know, that's one man's opinion. Um, you know, do your research, see what other people on the internet's saying. You know, look through the reviews on Newegg and Amazon for the motherboard you're looking at. See if anybody else reports them being buggy or being unstable. Like I said, mine ain't unstable. Mine runs fine every day for me. So, you know, if you want to look at another different manufacturer, that would be completely up to you. But I'm pretty happy with what I've got with the Gigabyte board. Alright. And I don't know why this one posted twice, but this one here posted twice. It is Pacanago 26, 2006. Do you guys know where the 12 volt pin for the LED underscore CPU? I looked this up. I'm not even really sure what site this is on. What's this on? medi. I'm assuming he's talking about the EPS 8 pin for the CPU. And by looking at their diagram that they have, it's going to be any of what would be a yellow wire or any of the wires that's closest to the clip, where it clips down onto the motherboard. That's going to be your 12 volt powers. That's about the best I got for that. You know, if you got a tester, you could always unplug it, turn on your power supply, and kind of test each one and see which one's got power coming to it. But by this diagram right here, it says that any of the pins closest to the clip is going to be your 12 volts. So I hope that answers your question on that one. What else do we got? Are these memories 2 8 gig Corsair Vengeance LPX 32 megahertz RAM compatible with this motherboard? Well, I'm going to say most likely. But you really don't have the information here for me to tell. And that came from Mantis. You really didn't give us enough information here to be able to tell you. If if them there are on the compatibility list with the motherboard. Uh, Let me get pulled up here and I'll show you what I'm talking about. If you do a search on these RAM sticks that you listed. Oh, well, that ain't right. There we go. They're on Newegg. You know, you have several kits of these RAMs available. You know, they're all the Corsair, they're all Vengeance LPX 16 gig RAMs. Two by 4 or 2 by 8 gig sticks. 3200 megahertz speeds. The best way to do this, or to tell if your RAM's going to be compatible, you go to the Gigabyte website. Here. Alright, that's for the B450 DS3H Revision 1. And you go over here to support. Maybe. It decides to go. There we go. You go over here to support list. And right here be your memory support list. That was on 9/3 of 2019, which is the newest list that they put out, which was a couple months ago. You hit the download button, it'll pop it up in a new menu. Let me get that blown up there for you guys can see it a little bit better. Well, maybe not quite that much. There we go. Alright, you're looking at Corsair 3200 and them 3400s. Corsair 3200s. Alright, here's all the kits for Corsair that they've got tested with this motherboard. You got, what is it, 12 different kits there that's listed. What you're needing to look at to see if that RAM is compatible is the module pin number. Okay, so, and they're all going to vary a little bit. Right there's the number that you're needing to look at. So if you go back to your listings, depending on what RAM you got, if you click into the RAM to look at it, right here is that number. You need to make sure that this number right here on the listing of the RAM that you're looking to buy is on your QVL. If you want to make sure that your RAM is going to be compatible with your motherboard, then make sure it runs with the motherboard, or it's the XMP is going to recognize it to get it up to 3200 speeds. That's going to be your best bet to, and he didn't give that number, so I'm not too sure if his RAM modulars would be or not. I'm going to say most likely they will be, but I can't say for sure. But that's how you go about determining if your RAM that you're looking to buy will be compatible with the motherboard, and if it's going to run at its 3200 max speeds. Well, I didn't even check mine. Whenever I bought mine, I didn't check the QVL list, so I can't run mine at the XMP profile. Mine does some funky stuff if I turn on XMP profile, so I run mine at the speed of 2667. I think is what mine runs at, because mine ain't on the QVL list. But yeah, I really can't answer that question because you didn't give me that number. And again, that number is the model PIN number is what you need to look at and make sure it's on this list for the motherboard. Like I said, they got quite a few of them here listed for the Corsairs. So I'm going to say most likely, but I can't say for sure. I hope that helps you. At least they give you the information that you need to figure out if the RAM's what it needs to be or not. All right, there's a couple questions knocked out. What else do we got here? And of course, with these questions, I'll go back and send them the links and whatnot to what I need to do. And there was one other one for some reason ain't showing up here. They showed up in my comments. I think he actually replied to a comment. So right here it is. It's Wow's I guess is the way you pronounce that. Says Dave's Techway. Hi, sorry about revealing this, but when I try to change the Voller and the voltage V core, I type the Voller, then press enter, but it returns to the auto. Am I doing something wrong? I looked into this. I was in the BIOS playing around a little bit this morning with my RAM and whatnot, and I actually looked into this one for you. And when you're doing the voltage, the motherboard actually acts like a Intel system compared to an AMD. AMD, you usually just type in what you want to run at, and it runs at that speed. For some reason, with the voltage, to be able to do the voltage, to bump up your voltage, it does an offset. Instead of just typing in, if you want it to run 1.45 volts, you just type in 1.45. And the voltage, you have to see what it's running at out of stock. And then you just add, 0.15 or 0.10 or whatever, just to add to what it's currently running at. Which I will type that back to him and answer him. I will reply to it and answer his question the best I can. You don't just, it ain't like the other steps of the motherboard. I don't know why they do it this way. It's actually the only motherboard I've seen that changes the format of the way they do things. But this one, it seems like they do an offset compared to you just typing into what you want it to run at. So yeah, you need to type in the offset that you want it to run. You need to figure out what your core voltage is running at anyways. And then, like I said, when I first replied to him, AMD only says to go up to about 1.45 volts. So I wouldn't go much more than that. My system, I think it was running like 1.35 volts or something. So you already take it up by like 1.12 volts or something like that to get it up to the 1.45 volts that they recommend. Is it gonna be really worth it to you? I'm not sure. I didn't try to set it and try to run my computer on it, so I don't know if it'd do you much good or not. But yeah, you just type in the offset instead of typing in what you actually want to run at. Like I said, I don't know why the motherboard runs that way, but it does. That's the way the motherboard vendors wanted to do it, I guess. That's the way Gigabyte wanted to do it. Alright, guys. Did I have any other comments? Let's see here. I did that one. I don't think I had any other comments. Them's all the comments I had for this week. Memory, I did that one, and then I went back down to, yeah, well, that was the 3 or 4 questions I had for this week. That's all the ones I had in my comments. So if anybody don't have anything in the comments to ask me, or you want to know anything, now's the time to speak up. If not, there's the comment section below. Let me know what you think about what I'm doing. What you think about the live stream. If you liked what you saw here today, make sure you give me a thumbs up. If you didn't like what you saw here, give me a thumbs down. If you really liked what you saw here today, I'm here every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, answering the questions, trying to hang out with some of the subscribers, give them a chance to ask anything they want to know. Just kind of go over some tech news, and of course, enjoy me a cold beer with you guys. And I try to also upload a video once a week or so. I don't know if I'll get one up this week or not. I kind of got behind on things this morning. I didn't really get one recorded for this week. Maybe over the next couple of days I can get it recorded and get it edited out and still get it up on Wednesday like I normally do. But with all that being said, guys, I think I'm going to get out of here for the day. You all have a good day, and I'll see you in the next live stream or the next video, whichever the way the situation may be. Until then, you have a good day.